Hey, what's up? This is Scott with Level Up Tutorials, and in this video, we're going to be diving into the code of what you get when you first install Gatsby. So we're going to be going through all of the folders, file structures, everything you need to know about where things are to get started. So let's get going on that right now. Okay, so when we left off in the last video, we had our site installed, we ran our Gatsby develop command, and we were greeted with this on our localhost port 8000. If you don't see this, then you need to go back and watch the first video, or just keep watching because you're not following along, whatever. So as you can see here, we have a nice basic site with 2 pages. In this video, we're going to dive into the code, which is actually running these sites, and see what's going on here. I'm also going to open up my inspect element over here, my dev tools, so I can just check out the console while stuff's going on, just in case we have any bugs. So let's go ahead and head to our code. I'm using VS Code as the text editor. The theme is Material Theme, Pale Night. You can get it, I believe, just by Material. Find it here, Material Theme. Right here, the most epic theme, you can config to make it look like this, to be Pale Night, which is the purpler version. Okay, so as you can see here, out of the box, this is what we get. We have a .cache folder, which you never touch and don't need to touch. We have our node modules folder, which is where all of our installed modules and packages end up. Again, not something you need to touch. You should be familiar with that by now if you're running Node. If this is your first Node site ever, or first time working in Node.js, this is when you install things into your site, like node packages, they end up going in here and you reference them, but we don't need to actually access this folder. And then we have our public folder, which is where our static site is actually going to be generated into, and we have our source folder, our src folder. This is where all of the code that we're going to be editing is going to live, really. Next we have our just standard git ignore, which ignores some stuff. The .cache folder, the node modules folder, the public folder, and the ds store files. Cool. Okay, next we have our GatsbyJS config, which tells us what kind of plugins we're going to be using, as well as the site title. We can configure this to just say Gatsby LUT, or whatever you want to name your site. Okay, so as you can see, this is just basic site metadata, right? I'm going to show you where this comes into play later. Next, we have plugins, right? Which is, we currently have React Helmet for the Gatsby plugin. This makes React Helmet play nicely with the static site generation, so that you don't, so that your actual React Helmet is generated completely. There's a lot of different plugins, which we'll go into later. Tons and tons and tons of plugins, which is one of the reasons why Gatsby is so nice. And by default, we do have React Helmet in here, which we're going to go over what that is if you don't know. Next, we just have a basic license, which you can read on your own time. Our package lock file, which we don't need to access. Our package.json file, which explains basically all of the dependencies, the scripts, everything just sort of about our package. You can see that some of the stuff like name, Gatsby starter default, all that sort of stuff, author, this is stuff you're going to want to change, but not something that's like necessary, right? I mean, if you're just generating a static site, does your package.json really need to have all the correct information? I don't know. It would probably be the last thing I did, but you can do it. As you can see here, we also have our dependencies, which right now are just simply Gatsby, which includes React, by the way, so we don't need to import React separately. Gatsby link, which is actually it pretty much is the React router link. So we're using React router in this whole thing, and we're going to be using Gatsby link the same way we would normally use React router link. Okay, next we have Gatsby plugin React Helmet, which we mentioned before. And if we scroll down here, we only have one dev dependency, which is Prettier, which is a formatter, which I typically would install ESLint and a whole bunch of ESLinting good stuff on here, but for another time. Lastly, we just simply have a README, which is the Gatsby starter README. You can certainly update this to be whatever you need it to be. And a yarn lock file. We're not using yarn on this project. NPM has gotten really good lately, in version, I believe, 5.3. So I'm back to using NPM pretty much all the time. So we could just ignore this yarn lock file. Let's dive into our source folder, where you can see we have a layouts folder as well as a pages folder. Our pages are simply just index, page 2, and 404. Now we can see all of these pages in action right now. Go to page 2, here it is. If we were to say, hey, maybe go to page 3, we're going to see the 404. So here are those. And then we also have our layout, which is basically the main layout of this site. You'll see things like, if we check into this file here, you'll see things like scroll down. Here is our header, just says Gatsby. If we change this to Gatsby LUT or whatever your site name is, you'll be able to see that updating almost instantly in your browser. Okay, so back to our files. And lastly, we just have our index.css, which you'll have some base CSS. Now, I intend on using things like styled components and stuff like that. So I don't know if there is interest in setting up your SaaS or stylus or any of that stuff. Let me know in the comments, and I can certainly make a video on that as well. No problems there. So as you can see here, let's actually dive into the first most important file, which is our index.js file. And this is the one within layouts, not the one within pages. Like I said, this is our layout. As you can see, we're just importing some of the basic stuff: link, helmet, prop types, React. We're importing our CSS right here, actually. So this is actually what makes our CSS load. If we were to remove import index.css here, you would see that our base CSS is now gone. We still have some of it, which is defined in the React, but our base CSS needs to come in with this import index.css. Now we can go over what this means here, because you import a lot of things this way. Now check it out. We have our first component, which is simply a header component. It's a stateless functional component here. So we simply just have our standard function definition here, where we have an arrow function, and it's returning within parentheses a div, an h1, a link inside that h1, and then closing out those divs. Now you can see we have some inline styles here with React. This is cool. I prefer to use things like styled components or a CSS preprocessor rather than this style of things, but you can certainly just vanquish this code if you want, start to do things your own way, whatever. We will certainly be doing a little bit of that. So this is our header component. Scroll down, we have our template wrapper, which is doing the same thing. And I honestly don't even prefer this syntax here. I like it like this, right? So you can see we have our constant template wrapper, which is bringing in children as a props, outputting a div. We have our helmet, which is setting our metadata, right? Then we have our header component, and we have a div, which is basically acting as a container and outputting our children, the children of which are going to be pages. Now check this out. This is part of the magic of Gatsby. There's a little bit of magic here, because we don't have a routing file. We're not saying, hey, page 1, go inside of children anywhere. Neither are we saying page 2. However, if we were to let's actually make a page 3 right now by do pages, new file, page hyphen 3.kjs. Okay. Now let's straight up copy page 2, second page, whatever, page 3, okay, third page. This is just an example here, okay? So what I'm doing here is all I did was make a new file inside of pages folder with the title of the file page-3.js, and I'm exporting this component as the default component. And I'm exporting this third page as the default export. Okay, so now all that does is that makes this page exist. If we were to go to page 2 exists. If we were to now make this page 3, you can see actually page 3 loads. And it loads correctly. So that's awesome, right? We didn't have to define any routing. We didn't have to do anything like that. I mean, if you're building a static site with like 4 pages, maybe like a home, about, contact, that stuff, whatever, It's as simple as making 4 files in your pages folder and then browsing to them. I mean, that's as easy as it gets. You can instantly see why this thing is so nice, right? I mean, this is just a big time saver. You can still end up writing your HTML as you like it. You can add a lot of dynamic content as you need to, and things generate nicely. As you can see, my site here is actually built on Gatsby fairly recently, and again, this is just 4 pages. That's it. There's nothing dynamic here going on. It was generated into static HTML, and it flies. This site's beautiful. It loads in under half a second, which is just awesome. And that's even with this video. I'm sure if I didn't have this video, this thing would be up instantaneously. Okay, it's dead simple to create new pages. We just simply create a new page in the page folder, export it as the default export, and that's it. Even if you don't know React, you could get by copying page to whatever, changing H1s, just writing straight up HTML. The only thing is here, your anchor tags become link tags instead of anchor tags, right? Link to is a little bit different than an anchor, href, whatever. But, I mean, how tough is this if you don't know React? This is not tough. You're just copying and pasting and changing some stuff, right? Writing straight up HTML. So that's part of the reason why I like this platform so much, is really it's the low effort, right? Low effort to get up and running, but a ton of additional complexity if you'd like it. And of course, as we keep going, we're going to be adding layers of complexity and layers of complexity until we totally know what's happening when and where and what inside of Gatsby, and we can completely control it, and we can even start bringing in some data from some APIs, depending on how we want to do that. Okay, so this should be a nice introduction to what's going on in the file structure and the initial files in Gatsby. As you can see here, nothing really crazy, and there's only a handful of stuff you can even see out of the box here. So as always, this is Scott with Level Up Tutorials. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment on the video, or hit me up at Twitter or Facebook at Level Up Tutorials. If you want to head to leveluptutorials.com/pro, you can sign up to become a Level Up Pro and get a ton of exclusive content streaming. And if you do it now, this is August 4th, I believe. The price is going to be going up in mid-August. So if you do it now, you're going to get locked into the $8.99 a month or $95 a year price infinitely until you cancel. So if you want to go ahead and do that now, it's in your best interest to do it before the price jumps up because of all of the new content coming. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.